To VBS. I know, it's exciting. It's day three. Day three of VBS. Fishies and butterflies. I love it. I love it. I am excited. Yes. What song is that? What song do you want to sing? This one or this one? This one. Okay. We'll sing it. All right. I am so glad you guys came back today. We were going to sing a few songs, if that is all right with you. Even if it's not all right with you, we're going to sing because we like to sing, right? Let's have a prayer first, and then we'll get started. Our dear Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this wonderful day. We thank you for all these kids that have gathered today to learn more about you, and we pray that we will be an example to them. In Christ we pray. Amen. Is this the one we want to start off with? Okay. All right. Peter and James and John in a sailboat. Peter and James and John in a sailboat. Peter and James and John in a sailboat out on the rolling sea. They fished all night, but they caught no fishes. They fished all night, but they caught no fishes. They fished all night, but they caught no fishes out on the rolling sea. Along came Jesus walking on the seashore. Along came Jesus walking on the seashore. Along came Jesus walking on the seashore out on the rolling sea. Cast your nets on the other side. Cast your nets on the other side. Cast your nets on the other side, out on the rolling sea. Then their nets were full of fish. Then their nets were full of fishes. Then their nets were full of fishes out on the rolling sea. You guys know how to do this? We haven't sang this one yet. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up, and the house on the sand went splash. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ, and the blessings will come down. The blessings come down as the prayers go up. The blessings come down as the prayers go up. The blessings come down as the prayers go up. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. Very, very good. Do you guys want to be in the Lord's army? Yeah. Well, we probably ought to stand up. Can't be in the army if you're sitting down. It's true. Ask John. I'm in the Lord's army, yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army, yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army, yes, sir. I think we can do it one more time, a little more feeling like we're really in the army. We'll pretend that Robbie is the drill sergeant. If you don't get it, if you don't do good enough, he's going to make you do push-ups. I know. That's what he said. I don't know. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, or shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! Much better. All right, you can sit down. I think the high school class probably has push-ups, but I'll let Robbie handle that. One more song. Should we roll the gospel chariot? That was the other request. You guys have some favorites for sure. Roll the gospel chariot along. Roll the gospel chariot along. Roll the gospel chariot along. And we won't tag on behind. If a sister's in the way, we will stop and pick her up. If a sister's in the way, we will stop and pick her up. If a sister's in the way, we will stop and pick her up, and we won't tag on behind. If a brother's in the way, we will stop and pick him up. If a brother's in the way, we will stop and pick him up. If a brother's in the way, we will stop and pick him up, and we won't tag on behind. If a sinner's in the way, we will stop and pick them up. If a sinner's in the way, we will stop and pick them up. If a sinner's in the way, we will stop and pick them up, and we won't tag on behind. But if the devil's in the way, we will roll right over him. If the devil's in the way, we will roll right over him. If the devil's in the way, we will roll right over him, and we won't tag on behind. Very, very good. All right, it's time for class. It's time to go. It's time to go. What do? We turn up our ears, right? Turn up our ears so we can hear all those wonderful things, because you got to tell me after class is over everything you learned about. I'm excited. I don't know. I've learned about plants. I've learned about light, darkness. I can't wait. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's right. Turn a milestone all right. See? Love it. I'll see you later. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe very softly. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe very softly. They said I taught class for many years there. It was a very exciting and enjoyable process. There's a lot of teenagers that first put up some anxiety.
Yes.
From that class. Oh, yeah, but it was a good class. I was class though. Your thought may differ. So tonight we're talking about evolutionary hoaxes. You think there's any evolutionary hoaxes out there? I think there might be none. Wow, let's go. Sure glad you're here, Rob. So you really speed this class right along. So,
They're not now, right?
yeah, wait a minute. I'm going to put the microphone on because we're having JD. JD, can you hear me without the microphone?
No. That's a no.
What?
You're not that loud.
Hey, I might put the microphone on.
Yeah, that's, Sonny came back and complained the hearing thing wasn't working. He said, no, it's the Greg not working.
Yeah, I forgot to put the microphone on. Shouldn't you be teaching class somewhere, Jack?
I'm just here, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to look at evolutionary hoaxes, right? And we're going to start just looking. Here's kind of what our sequence is tonight. My question to you now is, do you believe in evolution? So how many people here are going to say, yes? What's wrong, Susie? No one's going to say it? Jay? John? Oh, yeah, we have one. What do you believe in evolution? Okay, we're going to talk about things like that tonight. Okay, so tonight we're going to look at Genesis 1:1. Then we're going to look at Darwin's theories. And he had 3 of them. The first one is that the variation occurred randomly among its members of a species, that an individual's traits could be inherited as its own progeny, and that the struggle of the existence would allow only those with favorable traits to survive. So if you're in the back, you may not be able to read it. I tried to get as big as I could on the screen. We're going to look at some basic hoaxes, and we're going to look at dinosaur lies and other crazy stuff, if we got time. But mainly he's going to just look at a few minutes of dinosaur stuff, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there that's just completely insane. So the first thing, Genesis 1:1, what does it tell us? In the beginning, what? God created the heaven and the earth. And we don't even need the earth part. Created the heaven. And why do I say that? I mean, it's nice the Bible put in there the earth. It's a nice little added thing, right? But where do you live? We live on the earth, but you also live where? You live in outer space. Someone asks you, where you at? You out in outer space? You go, yeah, I live in outer space. Tracy, you live in outer space? Well, I knew that. That was a loaded question, wasn't it? But we all live in outer space. This is a crazy thing when people talk about, well, that's out in space. Well, I hate to tell you, you live out in space. You don't think about it because you're sitting on earth, you're in your house, you're in the church building, you're driving around, you're in Costco. You're not thinking I'm out in the middle of outer space, but you really are. Now to put some perspective in your life, right? This last year, they put this telescope into space, right? Or as a lot of people will say, the alleged telescope. Why would we say that? It's called James Webb. Who's James Webb? Anybody know who James Webb is? Anybody know who he is? James Webb was one of 9 guys who says he had the evidence that the NASA never went to the moon. He was on the NASA program. He led the NASA program. And he was one of the 9 guys who said that in the end, it was a great idea that we would go to the moon, but it's too difficult, so they're going to fake it instead. And you can shake your head saying, did we go to the moon? Did we not go to the moon? It's an interesting thing, because I used to think 100% we went to the moon, but now I'm probably about 60-40. So James Webb Telescope went up there and basically shot this telescope up. First they did the Hubble telescope, which is just outside the Earth, thousands of miles away from us. The James Webb is much closer to the sun, sitting out there to get better pictures into deep space. This is a nebula. What's a nebula? See, Tracy, you got the same answer already. No, we don't know. Scientists will tell you what they think that is. It's just two different lenses on it. But they don't really know. It's just, these are things that are out there in space. Remember, you're out there in space too. What's this? Might as well be. Scientists will come up with a whole bunch of different things. Hey, this is the beginning of life being formed here, of the universe. They'll come up with these creative ideas of what these different things are. Do they have any really idea what these things are? No, they have no idea. No idea. What's this thing? Yeah, some people say things like that. It's not a black hole. Is there ever been a picture of a black hole? No, there's not. So anytime you see a picture on the internet that's got that perfect circle that's black with the stars around it, and say, here's a black hole. What do we know about that? It's faked. It's not real. It's absolutely not real. If you see it, it's absolutely not real. And so this is a hole in space that's got something behind it, but it has a swirl pattern to it, right? Remember the swirls. Swirls are important as we look into Earth. What? Tornado. Could be. Yeah, nobody really knows. You know, for the most part, all they know, it's either energy or radiation. And you forget, the Earth is surrounded by an atmosphere, right? What's outside the atmosphere of the Earth? Anybody know? Space. It's called the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts are high radiation. Okay, so if you leave the Earth, you will travel through a very high radiation level. There's no way to avoid it. So if you leave the Earth and travel outside the Earth to the moon, you will be irradiated. There is no way around it. If you travel outside our galaxy, what's on the outside of our galaxy? Anybody know? I'm just curious. What's that? More space. There's a lot of space out there. Lots of space. Outside our galaxy is a magnetic field. Huge magnetic field. Very, very strong. So things that come toward our galaxy, it actually deflects things around our galaxy. So it's very hard, if you're outside our galaxy, to break through the outside protection, then to get inside our galaxy, then to go through the Van Allen belts, to get through the radiation, to get through our atmosphere, and it's going to burn you up until you get to the Earth. Very, very hard. So when you say, hey, there's people coming here all the time, you know, people from outer space traveling here, not really possible. Here's another shot. There's another thing scientists are going to go to. Another picture. What is it that they're seeing out in space? We don't really know. They're going to tell you all these great things. It looks just like energy or radiation that's floating out there. But these are the things that you can see with this alleged James Webb telescope out in space. Yeah. I mean, it's just about as true as some of these guys are. But you got to remember, we're in space. This is in space. Okay? But we're protected from all these things because there's a plan, there's a reason, there's a system to what's going on. This is what they call a deep field shot. And so this is when the James Webb telescope just takes a picture looking out into space. This is what it found. And then you can say, hey, that is a fantastic picture. What does this mean to me? Well, this picture from the James Webb telescope, I don't know if I have a pointer that'll work on this thing. So if you look, there's one right over here, there's one up here, There's one up here. These are galaxies that are out there, just like the galaxy we live in. But there's different galaxies out here. They found at least 6. So if you look at this one is tipped like this, right? I mean, everybody can see it. This one's tipped like this. Oops, wrong. This one is tipped this way. So you have this way, this way, this way, and there's different ways they're tipped. Now, why is that a big deal? Yeah, you're real excited. Tracy's at the edge of his seat. So let's consider, this is our galaxy. This is a picture from Earth looking at the Milky Way galaxy. It's a pretty much flat line with everything spiraled out, right? People used to look at this picture. Is any picture that looks like that real? The answer is no. If anyone shows you a picture that looks like this, and they say this is a picture of the Milky Way galaxy, you know what? It's fake. Okay? So you need to know what's real and what's fake. There's so much fake out there, it's unbelievable. For those of you who think we went to the moon, the pictures that are shown out of the capsule are all fake. Every last one of them were faked by NASA. NASA finally admitted that 5 years ago. None of them are real. So it says on there, you are here. Well, I don't know. Thanks, yeah. I wasn't sure if I was going to choke or fall over dead, but thanks, Robert. He's given the analysis that we really needed, point, counterpoint. But if you look at it, it's spinning, right? So when we think about there's 6 galaxies out there spinning on different planes going different ways, what does that tell us? That people who believed in the Big Bang Theory were wrong. And it's one of those evolutionary hoaxes, because everything for them started with the Big Bang Theory, right? They thought that here we had one spot where there's energy or something, we don't know what it was because they can't explain it, exploded, right? When it exploded, it formed this, and we started spinning out. This is the world as they knew it, right? But now when you go back, there's 6 of them in 6 different planes. So if there's one explosion, how does everything go different directions? Everybody's seen an explosion, right? We've had some firecrackers in our lives. What happens? Boom, it goes out, right? Perfectly rounded shapes. And some of them are pretty good. But you see it, they go all out. And they don't go at different planes and spin out. So when we start looking at this, and I know you're stuck with an engineer teaching tonight, so it's going to be more engineer's mind, just like Trent did to you. So there's a scientific law about chain spinning. Now there's a big name that goes with it. I'm not going to bother you with it. But most people here probably played crack the whip sometime in their lives. And so either you did it like on your roller skates. I used to do it because I grew up in Chicagoland. I did it on ice skates. So if everybody know what I'm talking about, everybody grabs hands and gets in a line. You grab hands and you start going around in a circle, right? And you start spinning and spinning. And so what happens to that last person? What? They go out, right? They spin out. They snap off the end of the line. What happens to them? They go straight out. Usually when they fall off, that last person, we could do a demonstration. Come on, Tracy, I'll spin you out here. That last person's going to spin out, right? And when they spin out, they're going to spin out in the same direction as the whip's going, right? So if you're spinning this way, when you spin out, you're going to spin out of control. I'm not going to fall over now, but so everybody spins the same way. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to get to is if there was one spot where everything exploded and spun out, everything would have to be going the same plane. What do we know about our galaxy? It's the craziest thing. We're going in a circle, right? That means what the planets all have to do. If the Big Bang Theory is right. All the planets have to spin out in the same way, right? All the moons have to spin out in the same way, right? Okay, how many of the planets spin in the same direction? All but 2. 2 spin the other way. Well, how's that possible? If we all came from one explosion, it couldn't have done it. It's just physically not possible. What about the moon? Does the moon spin? The moon doesn't spin. That's why there's so much controversy, right? Because what's on the other side of the moon? Go ahead and say it.
Green cheese.
That's right. Green cheese and aliens, right? The big motherships back there. But it just eliminates this theory. The theory that starts a lot of their stuff about a Big Bang and how it all happened. Because it's truly, absolutely 100% proved. And most scientists who believed in a Big Bang over the last 6 months to a year have had to admit that it's not possible. Now, there are some diehards out there. And one of the diehards is going to tell you. That's good. You're going to love it. Because now we've discovered 6 galaxies. So what happened all at the same time? There are 6 explosions all at the same time. 6 Big Bangs at one time. That's why it's the really Big Bang now. Isn't it convenient how that all worked out? Same exact time, 6 of them exploded at the same time. Now, we could go back and look at this and consider spin out. And so spin out is when you spin something so many times that everything that's inside the thing is gone away. It's gone so far out, right? So how many times does it take to spin this for a spin out to happen? Okay, it's not 13.7 billion years that the people say the Earth is now. If you didn't know, the correct answer, how old is the Earth? It's 13.7 billion years, according to scientists. If you spun that thing for 13.7 billion years, how many things are going to be still around the center of that Milky Way? Nothing. It'll all spin out to the edge. Everything would have spun out. And so there could have been nothing left. What's that? As you spin it, all the particles move to the outside. And so after 13 billion years, it'll all be out. How old is that spin? Can't be more than a couple thousand years old. Guaranteed.
But that picture was space on it.
What's that?
Said that picture was space on it.
Yeah, the picture is faked. But if you go back to, that one, we're all still together. And if you go out of town, you can actually see that. How many people have actually seen it? Yeah, up in the sky. That's it. It looks pretty close to it.
Why would things have to spin out to the outside?
There's nothing holding it in. There's no gravity in space. And so as you throw a ball, and that's basically what it's doing, it's throwing it in a circle. So as you throw it in a circle, eventually it's going to work its way to the outside. It can't hold its pattern.
Then all the planets move.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. So those planets would move out and out and out and out and out until they come apart.
So they reach circles backwards, meaning that each planet moves further and further away.
Well,
Here.
some things move. Let's take a look at one. It's a great point. Distance to the moon. Anybody know the distance to the moon off the top of their head? It's 1,261,392 feet from the Earth. That's in feet.
240,000 miles. Right.
Yeah. That's in feet. What's that? Yeah, it works on Earth. Doesn't work in space. So every year, the moon moves 1 foot further away from the Earth. It's going away. So it's just like you said, things are moving. So it's moving away from the Earth. And so if the universe was 13.7 billion years old, the moon would have to be a minimum of 13,700,000,000 feet away. Okay, so that's 13 times further away. If this were true, when the moon's on this side of the Earth, it would have to have started over on that side of the Earth. Now explain to me how that moon moved through the Earth to get to the other side. I'm willing to accept any theories, because we could write a book. And people will buy it, guaranteed. Here's how we proved evolution. So it's just, when you start looking at these facts, it's impossible. It's truly impossible about how things work that the Earth could ever be 13.7 billion years old. It's impossible that there could be a Big Bang Theory. Most scientists now are so confused by it, they don't know how to answer these questions. And I use the word scientist loosely, okay? I consider myself a scientist, and I never believed any of this stuff. My dad's got a master's degree in physics. When I was a small kid, I started asking these questions. I said, and one day I asked him, I said, you go to church, but you got a master's degree in physics. Which do you believe? And he goes, well, it's kind of a combination of the two. You know, theistic evolution, right? And I said, no, it's not, Dad. You got to pick one. Which one's it going to be? And he knew I was going to be a tough child for him. That's why I didn't last long in Catholic Church. Many more space discoveries have been made using that James Webb Telescope. So many that all the mainline scientists now are, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to address this. We don't know how to explain it, except for the fact that the Big Bang Theory just doesn't work. And so you won't see very much more in, say, in 5 years about it.
You know, we talk about sometimes the universe constantly expanding. Right? But if you were to, this isn't written with me, but the idea was if you were to hit, the Earth is supposed to be 13 billion years old. If you were to hit stop and hit rewind 13 billion years, it wouldn't add up.
Yeah.
So that's one way to show that this age of the Earth that we're supposed to be, which changes every day, doesn't make any sense because it's constantly expanding. 13 billion years doesn't work. Go back. Just doesn't add up.
No, nothing adds up. Nothing fits together. And it's just like a lot of people bring up, well, how did it start? What did you have? What was there when it started? Was it everything that was in the universe all put together into a big ball and exploded and ended up in this arrangement? How did it happen? How come all the planets are spheres? How come there's no squares, rectangles, triangles? Why is that? You ever think about that? I mean, these are questions I asked my dad as a kid. How come all the planets are round? How come there's no, like, ovals? Because it's an intelligent design. It's the only way a planet can be that it can spin and operate without just flopping all around, right? It's the only way it can work. There's an intelligent design behind how the whole solar system works. So I know you're real excited, probably bored of talking about space. If you ever want to talk about space, I'm more than happy to. It's very, very interesting. It's very interesting where our government has spent your tax dollars over the last 50 years. You know, why does NASA do what they do? It's, you know, and I know certain people get mad at me for saying it, but NASA spent a long time, 60s, 70s, and 80s, trying to prove God did not exist by doing a lot of different experiments. The answer is, when they first went to space, what was the first message, one of the first messages transmitted from space? You guys know? The Russians did it. There's no God up here. When the Americans went up there, what'd they say? And he's right. We didn't find a God up here.
Didn't those all been full policies
Yeah.
he reported as saying something give tributes to God.
There's certain astronauts that gave tributes saying they're in awe and amazement of the Earth in the solar system around them and what they saw. But a lot of them are like, there is no God up there. Okay, Darwin. Darwin had a number of theories, three basic theories. The first one is that the variation occurred randomly among members of species. Okay? And I put up there, remember the acorn. There used to be always this discussion. Tracy, you're not going yet. You got another 30 minutes, okay? There used to be a discussion about the acorn, right? People say, well, things change. Darwin's theory here is that things change over time. So my question is, how long does it take, right? If I planted an acorn, what's going to come out? Don't say an acorn tree. Okay. A tree, you're going to get an oak tree, right? You take that seed and you plant it again. You plant it again. You plant it again. If I plant it 1,000 times, what am I going to get? Same thing. You sure? Okay. He thinks you might get an apple tree. But what? Could you get a plant, a flower? You get squirrels. But if there's a time where Darwin says, somewhere randomly this is going to happen, how many random events does it take? Is it going to be 10,000? I need to plant 10,000 acorns to find one's different. And they say, John says, no, I need more. I plant 1,000,000. What am I going to get? 1,000,000 oak trees. Okay, plant 1,000,000,000. Well, for me, I have probably 1,000,000,000 dead acorns in the ground. But someone else might be able to get 1,000,000,000 trees, right? When is that variation going to happen? Do I need to plant 100 billion, 1 trillion? And what's past 1 trillion? I don't even know. 1,000,000,001,000,000. Thank you. That's what I knew I could count on. So you can keep planting, keep planting, keep planting. Does it ever change? Do you ever plant a seed and hope it comes out something different? Plant it. I'm going to plant the seed. I'm going to plant tomato seeds, and I'm hoping to get cucumbers this year. What's that? Not in my lifetime. It's not going to happen.
Well, speaking of hope, why not plant tomato seeds to get a puppy?
Exactly. So we can think about that. I forgot what I put in the next slide. Okay, we're going to go like that. Whoops. So does anybody announce, hey, my wife's pregnant, or if you're a lady, I'm pregnant? And does anybody come up to you and say, what are you going to have? Now, are you thinking the answer is male or female? Or are you thinking the answer is human, dog, cat? Well, if you believe in this, it could randomly happen, couldn't it? But no one ever thinks that, do they? Has anyone ever gone up to a pregnant woman saying, are you having a human? You're laughing.
That would be hilarious.
I don't think I'd actually do that, but that's what he's teaching, right? He is 100% teaching that something is going to change from one thing to another, right? Now, where did he get this from? And Jared covered it a little bit last night. He started with people and races because he thought that certain races were subservient to other races, right? Then he started looking at animals because he loved animals. And what did he find in animals? So a lot of animals look the same, right? So they had to evolve from one to another. They couldn't have been just all here at the same time. And so here's one. Here's one of the things he did. And I'm going to just make fun of him. Okay, what's that? That's a little pony, isn't it? Everybody wanted a pony when they were a kid, right? No? Boy, this is a tough class. I may have to pass this off to you here in a minute. Okay, what's next? A zebra. Do you always want one of those? You just wanted the pony?
So I'd rather have one of those than a pony.
You rather have one of those on a pony? Okay. So the zebra. So which came first? The pony or the zebra? Did one come from the other? Okay, now there's your horse, right? Everybody loves a horse. I'd love to have a horse. I kid Jennifer all the time that I want to have a horse. Then she goes, well, you can go muck out the stall and clean it and buy the food and feed it every day. And I go, no, I'd hire a hand to take care of that. And she goes, it costs a lot of money. So I don't have a horse. But there's a horse. So now you got three, right? All these different variations. So the one lead to the other. Which one came first? The chicken. This is really getting rough here. Oh, hey, there's a bigger horse. So now, in Darwin, he had a pony that one day the pony came out and it was striped. That's what we called it, a zebra, right? Then the zebra had a baby zebra and it came out a horse. Then the horse, one day, it came out a Clydesdale. And then look what happened. Tracy, you're going to love this one the best. You ready? What happened to the unicorn? It didn't make it on the ark, is what I always say to you. That's my greatest line, too. Didn't make it on the ark, right? So, what happened to the unicorn? Where did it fit in this thing? Okay, and what's this sweet guy? It's a donkey, right? Where's this donkey fit in with this horses? Because it's four-legged. It looks like a horse, but it's not a horse. But it must have evolved somewhere in there. So it didn't evolve. It did. Okay, what about this guy? It's down in the future. Because this is actually what? A crossbreeding between a horse and a donkey? And a mule. It's a mule. Yeah. Cross between a horse and a donkey. So, did it evolve? What's that? It's in the process of the two. Okay. So, did these evolve one from another and create each other? No, they're different types, right? They're absolutely different types. Now, Robert brought up earlier about do people evolve? And so that's a great question because a lot of people will say, well, we've evolved because man was shorter and we've seen they've gotten taller and taller and taller and taller. So has man evolved that we're taller, bigger, fatter? And no, it's kind of a genetic change. You know, we haven't evolved. I didn't evolve from a human into a different animal. It's just the animal changed slightly. They show everything from moths changing color over time. People have different colors. People have different heights. People have different hair color. And things have changed about humans. We're still humans. We have the same DNA. Nothing's changed in us. We're still humans, even though we may look slightly different than we used to. So the thing about Darwin was when he did things in the 1800s, what could he see? What animals could Darwin see? It's not a trick question. What's that? Yeah, giraffes could have been one. But he could see land animals, right? He saw all the land animals, and he looked at characteristics between land animals. So what about this? This is something he never saw. How many animals do you see here? This is a tough question. I try to count it myself. I counted at least like 10 or 12 different animals here. Because it's a coral reef. There's several different types of coral on there. Coral is animals. Okay? So these are animals. How did these animals evolve from fish, from whatever he wanted you to start at and work your way back? Where do they fit in this evolutionary group? What's that? The fish evolved from the coral.
it's an interesting study to look at coral. If you've never had a chance to look at coral reefs or study them, there are so many different types and kind. Because you always think about the hard one that you fall on, you rip your foot apart. But there's actually very soft kind. They're kind of that mobile and move. There's other kind that have the calcium that comes out of them. It forms a very rigid thing. If you step on it, you'll hurt yourself. This is a harp sponge. It's an animal. Now, where does that fit into the great fish pattern? Darwin couldn't see in deep sea. This would have really kind of thrown his whole theory off. This doesn't exist anywhere. He can't relate this to anything. What about jellyfish? There are lots of different types of jellyfish out there. There's even some that are upside down. He never saw these, so there's no way he could actually place this. There's no evolutionary, hey, it went from a chimpanzee to a monkey to an ape to a human. It has that progression, right? And then to a jellyfish. He doesn't have it. This thing's called a lighted something fish. It's in the bottom of the ocean. The only way you can see what to catch is with this light that it has sticking out of its forehead. And other animals see it, and they're able to suck it up. And so there's very little you can see. Now, this picture's hard to see. This is something that's caught by Google Earth. This is an animal that is in the Pacific Ocean that is the size of a small elephant. It's got the top half of it looks like a rhinoceros, thank you. And its body looks like an elephant. And it's swimming out in the ocean. And Google Earth, as it took pictures across the earth, found them. There's actually 7 different species that Google Earth found swimming. Now, one of them is, and you probably see, is the giant crab. It actually was real. Crabs can keep growing and growing and growing. And after a time period, eventually they get too big and they finally die. But there's these animals out there that are unexplainable, that no one's really ever seen that much of, that don't look like anything else. That when you try to put it into an evolutionary type of thing where things came from one another. So this looks sort of like that, had something that was so close to it, so something that's close to it, something that's close to it. These things stick out and there's nothing there. So what do these evolve from? How many life cycles does it take to make the change? One of the things that, Darwin talked about the change and the change and change, is that everything started from a one-cell amoeba, right? Do one-cell amoebas exist today? The answer is yes, absolutely they exist. And then he says they split and there are 2-cell organisms. How many 2-cell organisms live today on the earth? It's 0. They're none. How many 4-cell organisms live on the earth? I'll give you the answer. It's the same. It's 0. How many 8? I'll give you the answer. It's 0. And we can keep going this for quite a while. So when things say they evolved, in Darwin's theory, everything still exists that it evolved from. Because there's still monkeys here. There's still chimpanzees here. So in his theory, things evolved, but the original stayed. The only problem is there's no 2-cell, 4-cell, 8-cell, 16-cell organisms out there to show that things evolved from one cell. It just doesn't exist. Okay. That an individual's traits could be inherited through, it's basically through its adults. You would inherit the change in your genetics from your parents. So that's what we're talking about. Do you see human parents giving life to something that's non-human? No. Do you see someone giving birth to someone who the genetics don't match the parents? They always match. It matches so well. One of the things is that DNA was not discovered when Darwin was alive. It was discovered slightly after he was alive. We know today that the DNA matches up, right? Your DNA matches your parents, matches up to your grandparents, but you're still unique. But most of the markers are there. It all lines up. It lines up so well that if we go and take everybody's, now you get to remember, in DNA, it splits to your mom and dad, then to your mom and dad, 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 right? Keeps going back. So if you trace Tracy's, all his moms, all the way back to the first mom, and you trace John's mom all the way back to the mom's side, mom, 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 all the way back, and you trace mine, mom, 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 all the way back, what do we find? We all have the same mom. There's just one. Now, they started out thinking there was 4, but as DNA got better, they discovered there's only one. There's only one mom. And that really hurt Darwin in this theory. As things would change, things don't change. All the DNA lines up. If Darwin was born just 50 years later, DNA would have just stopped him in his tracks. And still today, DNA evidence is out there that shows everything lines up. If you can look at dogs' DNA, because, for a long time, people would sell dogs, and I tell you, this dog here, it's a purebred. Why don't you buy my dog? It's purebred. Charge you extra $200, it's purebred. Now they find out through DNA tests how many purebred dogs are out there. Not many. They're all mixed. They're all mutts. That the struggle for existence would allow only those with favorable traits to survive. Is this true? Okay, who's going to survive? Okay, let's keep going. What about this situation? How many want to be the zebra? No, zebra's not going to survive, right? So who's surviving? The faster. Okay, who survived this? The smartest. The smartest and the strongest survived, right? So what happened to the buffalo in this country? What's that? Survival of the fittest. That's what this third one was. So survival of the fittest is actually true, is it not? Now, day to day, we're not doing survival of the fittest. We don't go to work and, we can say, okay, who's going to be tough man day to day? And the rest, I get to come back and the rest of you don't.
Climate change too has wiped out different animals.
Climate has changed,
Yeah.
but not as much as, one would think. But, so this part of evolution, if you want to consider it, the stronger will survive, it's partly true. But as you look at it, are buffaloes still here today? They sure are. Now, man protected them, but there's other animals that are gone, right? There's all the extinct animals.
And animals do change and adapt to their environment.
The
But,
yeah.
If you're in an all-snow area, the animals that survive are going to be white.
Yep. So here's the last one. I grew up in Chicago. It was a little different. 2 guys in the back are chasing the guy in the front. Who's going to survive?
Faster.
Yeah, who's ever faster, right? You only have to be faster than one guy, right? But, so was Darwin correct? Does this make us evolutionists? That the stronger will survive? I don't think it makes you an evolutionist, but that's why I asked that in the beginning. Are you an evolutionist? Because in a way, there's 1 or 2 things that they say. In everything, there's 1 or 2 pieces of truth, right? And they mix it in there with all the lies, so you start believing the lies. Okay, we're going to look at we got a few minutes left here, because we're going to finish up, and then you can go eat cookies, and then there's going to be singing time. I'll let you guys have the rest of the time for yourselves. So,
You're not saying big,
Well, Tracy, we all have our own personal beliefs, don't we? So I've always, I'm a big Bigfoot enthusiast, if you never knew. And I always had a tremendous amount of fun. I took Ethan and Seth, when they were very young, out in the woods where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And you probably seen the show Finding Bigfoot. We went out and stick, we hit some trees. And I made the Bigfoot calls. And if you go on certain people's Facebook sites, you'll see me do it. And I love doing it because Raymond Carolyn at the time lived about, a couple hundred feet above a lake, Bull Shoals Lake. And if you ever went down to see him, the lake just stretched out from them. And when we're at the end of the lake, and when you scream at the end of a lake, your voice carries a long way. So I did the loudest Bigfoot call I could scream at the top of this lake going down. Every neighbor within about 3 miles heard it. And so it was dark. Then all of a sudden we got a scream back. And it was actually Carolyn who did it. Seth grabbed onto me. He's probably going to be mad if he's back there. Seth grabbed onto me so tight, and for a second he thought, is there a Bigfoot? 3 seconds later he realized there is no Bigfoot. What is this? But just for a split second I had some fun with them. But we've gone out and done Bigfoot stuff and had a lot of fun with it. Does Bigfoot exist? Bigfoot doesn't exist, okay? It's just a hoax. But it's a hoax that people are trying to fool you into believing these big animals have evolved and are out there. Now, I've always wanted to have the show Urban Bigfoot, where we just take that. It's funny, right? We give sponsorship that, Bigfoot likes Burger King. And so we always search around Burger Kings for the Bigfoot and stuff. Instead of hitting trees, we'd hit light poles. I think I got a show here, but you laugh, JD, but you just wait. All I need is a couple of those infrared cameras. What are those cameras you see in the dark with? Satan, though, is the master of all hoaxes. Jesus told us that behind every falsehood, in John 8:44, ye are your father, the devil, and the lust of your father will do ye. He was the murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there was no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh for his own, for he's a liar and the father of it. Psalmist wrote in 119:104, through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false ways. Solomon wrote in Proverbs 6:16-19, the 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7, the abomination unto him, a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and a heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be not swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. So there are people out there who are trying to sow these false ideas, false stories to people just to divide people up, just to make things bad and take people away from the church. There's this thing called Haeckel's, I'm sorry, it's a little small, Haeckel's embryos. In the 1800s, they had the scientists try to show that these embryos changed from one thing to another thing. And all he did was fake it. It was all fake stuff that he created. And so he created all these pictures, and then he finally created, I don't know, we call them, well, they're supposed to be beings, but they're just all fake little tadpoles to humans. And he showed how these things could change from one thing to another. It'd be from one animal to a human. And he propagated this for years and years, and people bought it for a long time. And for a long time, people thought, hey, this is actually true. Men did go through these different phases. So thanks, Justin. We're going a little longer, and then I'm going to let him go. He did this for a long, long time, where he tried to show that fish, reptiles, and animals all were linked one to another. That through when they were being born, from the time they were conceived to the time they were born, they took different shapes and form. So if they're born early, you wouldn't come out a reptile, you come out a fish. And one of his things he had, and I didn't put it up, I don't think I put it on there. No. Oops. One of the things he did, he's the one who created that first picture that goes from the chimpanzee, and that goes all the way up to a man. It has like 7, 8 pictures in a row. They go all the way down, and all of a sudden it goes, whoa, no, I'm a human, hello. He's the one who did that. A lot of people think it was Darwin, but it's actually him. Chimpanzee DNA. How many people know about chimpanzee DNA? I know you study this all the time, right? You read about it last night, didn't you? So what happens with chimpanzee DNA? What did they try to say for a long time? Man came from a monkey. So they said, hey, let's compare up the two DNA and see what they look like, right? They go, hey, these two look really close. And then after they actually studied it and went through every bit of the DNA, how many deviations were there between the two? It was well over 1 million differences. When you start studying animals versus humans, how much of the DNA looks a lot alike? A lot of it looks alike. And why is that? Why does your DNA look similar to a dog, to a cat, to, pick it out, a possum, whatever you want to pick? Why would it look the same? We have the same parts. Parts is parts, right? I have a bovine valve in my heart right now. Okay? So, what does a dog have? 4 legs. Well, I got 2 arms, 2 legs. He has a heart, a brain, 2 eyes. Does that sound pretty familiar? A nose, ears. They're all pretty similar, aren't they? Cat, what does a cat have? 4 legs, head, 2 ears. Pretty similar, right? Cow, what does a cow look like? 4 legs, but it's got 7 stomachs or whatever it has. I don't know how many stomachs it has. The layout's the same, right? The pattern's the same. There's a pattern to things, right? Is there no shock that the DNA is similar? But they found out that in the chimpanzee is at least 5% different. Every animal is about the same difference. We're not that far off. There's a pattern to how we were made. Shocking, isn't it? There's a design to it all. One of the big ones, and I didn't put the guy's name up there, was that they try to take 2 vials of non-living chemicals, and they did thousands and thousands of chemicals. They put the 2 chemicals together, right? Non-living, there's nothing living in them. 2 things are non-living, put it together, and what did we create? They hope to create a living person. You got something non-living, right? Put Kool-Aid and water together, what do you get? Wheat Kool-Aid. Do you get a person? You put your cream in your coffee, what do you have? Coffee with cream. Is this shocking at all? Gross coffee. Remember Laverne and Shirley, what she put? Pepsi and milk together, something like that? I'm starting to show I'm old. Isn't that right, though? But he tried to do this. They spent thousands and thousands of hours doing this, pouring different chemical solutions together. They were trying to create a person. Did it work? Never worked. I talk about all the time. People have, I do a whole bunch of earthwork when I build roads, and we build them out of clay, right? Clay is inert. What does inert mean? Anybody know? Inert means there's nothing living in it. And then people try to grow grass in clay. Can you grow grass in clay? No, you can't. You cannot. It's 100% clay. You cannot grow grass in it. There's nothing living for it to hold and have nutrients from. Same thing. They try to do it. I know a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to take this clay soil and I'm going to add this chemical to it and I'm going to be able to grow grass in it. If anybody tries to sell you that chemical, run away. Because you can't add a chemical to another chemical and come up with living life. It doesn't exist. You actually have to buy soil that has living life in it. It's just something. But people will do that. So if you've done that, you're kind of an evolutionist. Dinosaurs. Now, John's going to cover dinosaurs tomorrow. We got 5 minutes left. We're going to talk about dinosaurs for just a minute. What's the biggest dinosaur that's ever been found? Tracy, I told you this yesterday. Biggest dinosaur that's found intact. It's like 6 or 7 feet tall. That's the biggest dinosaur that's ever been found. Okay? Everything that's in the movies is fake. I'm sorry. So if you like, what's that movie? Jurassic Park. If you like that movie, great movie, right? Just know that every one of those dinosaurs is fake. I grew up in Chicago, and that's the Field Museum. In the Field Museum sits this dinosaur. I went and saw that dinosaur when I was a kid. Seen it many times. Okay? Is that dinosaur real? This is a museum professing to teach you something, right? Is that dinosaur real? Nope, it's a fake. 100% fake. Here's the other dinosaur they have. It's like a T-Rex. Is that dinosaur real? It's completely fake. 100% completely fake. There's anything real about it. So, what I want to point out here is you see this little table that's right here? Right on the side, right there. This is in the Field Museum in Chicago. There's a little plaque. And it'll say on that little plaque, if anybody cares to read, because nobody reads anything in the museum, right? They just look at stuff. Hey, that's pretty neat. But if you actually read what's there, they're going to tell you there's like, I think it's either 2 or 3 bones. And each bone is about this big. About this big. There's 3 bones about this big that they have that are real. And they said, our scientists have imagined what this animal would look like from these 3 bones. And this is what we imagine it looked like. Well, that's quite an imagination, isn't it? The other one, I think, has 1 bone. And from this 1 bone, we imagine what it looked like. That's on the plaque. They tell you that. It's right down here. But nobody reads this thing. Because I've sat there and watched it. Nobody ever stops to read it. They take 100 pictures of the dinosaur. Look at that. Let me get my picture of the dinosaur. Is it real? It's all fake. It's all fake. Now, there's a lot you can talk about dinosaurs, and I'm sure John will talk about tomorrow. Were dinosaurs on the ark? How did dinosaurs get over here? Did dinosaurs live with man? You, Brian, can cover this. I'll just give you 10 seconds. Yes, dinosaurs lived with man. There's man's footprints in rock with dinosaurs. Here's another one. Where do you see the most of these pictures? Most places you can find this, where man's footprints are with dinosaurs. North America. Okay? The pictures of them are in North America. And so when you think about dinosaurs, when you think about it, there's a lot of truth to them. Dinosaurs teach you a lot of good things. I'm sure John's going to cover all of it tomorrow. But you got to remember, you have to be very, very careful on what the truth is. So, saying that, does anybody have any questions? Because if not, it is cookie time for you guys. No? No cookies? I ruined it for you, didn't I? I'm sorry, Tracy. What's that? The cookies are real. Alyssa made a lot of cookies, and a lot of you all made some cookies. And so I would highly encourage you to go down and eat some cookies. I appreciate your attention and your participation this evening. And I'm sorry, Tracy, that I broke your heart.